Well, on behalf of the Wright Graduate University and the Wright Foundation for the Realization of Human Potential, I want to welcome you to the Idea Cafe. Woo! So thank you for being here and congratulations for being here to come and explore this topic, why we marry our mothers and date our dads, understanding and transforming the relationship styles you learned at home. Yes, so we have some folks here in the room. We also have a number of folks on our webinar, so we can wave to our webinar people. We know that you're there, and we're happy to have you. I'm Dr. Gertrude Lyons, faculty at the Wright Graduate University, senior coach at the Wright Foundation, director of our family program, and manager of our couples program. I also have a very long and kind of love affair with this particular seminar and topic. It goes way back, almost as long as I've been married to my husband, which is 28 years. And I think we did this seminar maybe a year or two after being married. So, 26-ish years of this material. We participated as a full weekend. Dr. Bob and Judith Wright led it. We then we crafted it into a Friday evening Saturday that my husband and I then got trained to lead and facilitate. So we've, over the years, have led that a number of times. I love it so much. I made it my capstone project for my first master's degree. And then in my doctoral degree, got to facilitate it again for doctoral credit. Just this past weekend, Dr. Karen Terry, who's here in person, and I led a similar but different weekend called Family Systems and Intervention. But all of this work is built upon a big foundation and a wonderful base that I'm hoping we can enjoy and explore together. Is everybody on board for that? Yes. Okay, great. And along the way, I'll be sharing some of my personal journey with all of you as we move along with that. So it isn't just that I like the content. I like the content because I've worked it so much in my relationship and my life. So today, we have 45 minutes. We don't have a weekend or even a night and a day. We have 45 minutes to really hit some highlights. I kind of consider it a highlight reel, but I still do want people to get a little experience and taste of it. This is going to be a 80-20 rule. You're going to see what resonates and hits you. We're going to hit a lot of things fast, not necessarily go into things in depth, but you'll get to see what resonates, and then you can we have plenty of ways, coaching, programs here that can take you into deeper work, because it's, as you'll see, I think it's really enlightening, really cool. And I won't be talking the whole time. I know you probably want that, but I am going to want some participation on your behalf, but also it's going to be more meaningful for you to have some chances to dig into the material. I will mostly be speaking overtly about a couple type relationship. But I really want people to know that while that might be the framework I'm coming from, that it generalizes to all of our relationships. Bosses, coworkers, significant others in every realm. And I'll also, just because it's my personal experience, be orienting to a male-female couple relationship. But again, it applies same-sex, gender-neutral, any kind of relationships that we have or have going in our life. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Okay, great. So, diving in. So my goal for today, and I hope, and I'm going to hear a little bit of some of what yours are, is for us to really open up and learn about the forces at play when we interact. It's particularly historical forces. And these historical forces that have been wired in our formative years. Now, I often have people in my coaching or, in programs like, what do we have to look backwards for? Like, why? The past is the past. Let's just move forward, right? Well, if we could do that, I would be more than happy. If it worked and we could do that, we would do that. And we really do want to orient to our potential and going forward. But we can't leave our past behind. It's wired in us. Neuroscience, all the theory and technology and research we have has proven this. We're wired in the atmosphere that we grow up in. Not only, we model patterns, but literally, Freud and wiring and firing together, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So all of that's there. So the more you know about these forces and your family, the more you'll know about yourself. And the more choices you'll have about how you interact with people, and interact with people in much more satisfying and nourishing ways. How does that sound? Yes. That sound good? Okay, great. Well, giving just that first little intro, I want to hear a little bit of what attracted you to this seminar. I mean, I just told you a little bit what it was about, but when you saw the title or heard about this, can I hear from a couple people about why you showed up here?
This is Karen Terry. Not only is there always more for me to learn about my own marriage, but I have 2 sons now who are of an age to pick a partner. And when I watch who they date, I'm always like, ooh, how are they trying to marry their mother or date their father, or however that works. So I can see the generational patterns, and I'm curious about that too.
That's great. Can we give her a hand? We do things like clap and so yeah, go ahead, Ann.
Well, I have a sadness because I decided I would never get married because I did not want to date or have anything to do with anybody like my father. Yep. And so I totally rejected the whole thing, and I'd just like to understand more about that.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful, Ann, and well, let's give her a hand. And that is something that we'll want to underline, because until we look at these patterns and explore it as deeply and consciously, we'll either recreate exactly what we grew up with, thinking we're doing it differently, or we'll say, I'm not going to get married. Or if I do, I'm not going to marry or find anyone like my mom or dad. But it's just not how it works. Yeah, go ahead, Sammy.
Hi, this is Sammy. So I haven't been married, and I have fear about marrying a woman that is like my mother. I don't want that, so I'm here because I've seen the pattern of how alike my dating life have been and how many characteristics I see in the woman I date that are my mom's, and I want to interrupt it and gain some more knowledge how to do it and be more aware.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And just to underline something there, and it's, oftentimes we'll kind of start in that place of like, oh, I don't want to date or marry someone like my dad, a man, but it turns out I married somebody that's both like my dad and my mom. So that's where, it's really kind of behaviors and patterns that are not even gender specific that we'll be attracted to. So that's great. And looking around the room, and I've seen some of the names of those on the webcast, I know we have people where this might be the first time you're looking at this topic. That's fine. Or you're in our year of transformation and you're in this quarter of family and intimacy and you're actually in the midst of some assignments specifically regarding this. Or you're in our transformation lab and you're diving really deeply in ongoing in-depth assignments around this. So from wherever you are on that spectrum, I'm really, it's my intention that you learn something new or you walk away here with a new insight or something that you want to explore further. Does that sound good? For everybody? But so far the things people have said is what we do want to hone in on. Okay. So like I said, our focus is to understand patterns and behaviors that are carried through from generation to generation. And we can use tools, and there's tools that have been brought into therapy, clinicians, and one of them that we use in particular is a genogram. So a little bit later this morning, we're going to get a further introduction of that. Also looking at roles that we have in our families and looking at family rules, myths, and beliefs that we have all start to shine the light and bring light to what before we just kind of, I don't know about you, but it was like, well, it's just my family. This is just how it is. And what's the big deal? But you start looking, and something that I think happens for a lot of people is they're like, whoa, I had no idea we had so many secrets. That's just, sometimes it's very intentional, the secrets, sometimes it's just not what people talk about. We're not used to talking in this way, about what's so in our families. And I think one of the big discoveries on the systems weekend that we did this full weekend up at our graduate university campus was that at first we're like identifying these roles and we're looking, everybody's like, oh, this is terrible, and we have feelings about it and there's tears, but we were in a little bit of drama about them. So as weekend progressed, we discovered that systems are neutral. The roles, we came upon these roles and we're in our family and we adapt to the system because that's what we know to do as children. That's what's wired in us as ways to like navigate the anxiety in a system or to get attention. You know, Alfred Adler really brought that to focus where, you know, there's scarcity of attention and how am I going to get it? So I might be the bad child, I might be the good child, the cheerleader, the caretaker, and all of them they're all fine. There's no good or bad role. Because that's what happened too. Some people are like, I want your role looks better than the role I took on and whatnot, but you know, they all have their pluses and minuses. I also, a little qualifier, it can and usually is very stirring anyway, you know, even though we can have in our mind that this is neutral, to first start looking at this might be the first time we're looking at this, and it can be uncomfortable and stirring. So I suggest adopting a explorer, archaeological, anthropological, there, we'll do that, perspective, that one's better, of gathering data from the past that helps us make decisions about our future. How's that sound? Okay, good. So we're going to get our first taste of exploration as this archaeologist. And you're going to turn to page, well, I guess it's actually officially page 1 of your little packet. And this page is called What I Would Change in My Parents' Marriage. So if you didn't have a unit that was like a parent unit, just something that you would change in the atmosphere of the people that were raising you. So, you know, if you could come up with 5 things, I give the example, I would change that my parents weren't affectionate. And I would have liked to have seen them hold hands, cuddle, and be playful with one another. So you want to give both, like, what is it that you didn't like, and then something, how would you like to have seen it? Okay, so we'll just give a couple minutes on this. About another 30 seconds. So wherever you're at, you might have gotten 1 or all 5. That's fine. What I'd like you to do is find a buddy, and for those of you in the room, if you happen to like be with another person while you're on the webinar and can share, I'd like you to turn and face somebody, and this is something we call a paired sharing if you've never done this before, where one person, and I'm just going to have you share what this was like for you either something you got, is there something new, anything about, or just how you felt about doing it for maybe about a minute, and the other person just listens, and then I'll tell you to switch, and then the other person will get a chance to talk. Okay? All right, so buddy up. Whoop. Can someone, are you going to buddy Jessica? There, you can. All right, now you do. All right, great. All right, go ahead and start. Person A. Okay, so first person, finish your sentence, and second person, you go ahead. Okay. Second person, finish your sentence. Come on back. And could I hear maybe from a person or two, like what that was like, or something that you realized or got from that?
This is Karen. I saw how my parents, first of all, my parents got divorced when I was young, so I was trying to remember things from when I was small. But the problems that I saw was that they had very rigid roles. My mother was locked into being a homemaker and mom. My dad was locked into being, so they didn't have a chance for her to really get out of the house, and he didn't have much time to be home nurturing with us.
Yeah.
They were both, had a lot of pain, emotional pain, that I think they hoped the other person would take care of. So instead of sort of cleaning things up for themselves and getting some therapy, they just took it out on each other. And then they both drank and partied a lot. So I don't have memories of us sort of doing quiet together things as a family, but I do have a lot of memories of parties in our house.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so, yeah. And you saw, and obviously in that you saw how you would have liked the quiet time, or like that to also, maybe there could have been some parties, but you would have liked some sober time together.
Yes, exactly.
Put it that way.
Exactly.
Oh, thanks. Thank you, Karen.
And I didn't finish all 5.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah. And obviously all of these you can take, you're going to take your packet with you, and you will be encouraged to keep exploring. Like I said, we're just going to have a chance to kind of touch on some of these. All right. Anne, you were going to share?
Well, as I look at it now, I mean, everything was fixable. Everything just would have required partnership. And there was so much resistance and hiding. My dad always said no to something. And so then, I think my mom, she just stopped asking and got covert. And so I think there was a way, none of this is unfixable. It was just...
Which is the good news, bad news, right?
Yeah.
Now looking forward, I can I'll be able to make those choices, but I have some regret and feelings about, wow, it wouldn't have taken that much for them to make some changes. Yeah, thank you. Okay, I'm not going to do this as a full workbook page, but what I am going to have you just either turn to the same buddy or pick a different buddy, and I know you'll just have done this, and just take a moment and think about like either a relationship that I'm in, whether it's a partnership or marriage or something, you know, that's immediately intimate, or a past one, or a boss or something like that, and just see if you can, in another paired share, oh, where do I see some similarity or the opposite or difference, or just what do I notice when I think about myself in relationship to identifying these patterns in my parents. Okay, so let's get buddies again. I want to make sure everybody has a buddy. And again, on the webinar, you can do this as the page 2 in your packet. All right. You're doing it as a buddy. Yeah, so webinar people are going to do it as an exercise. You're going to talk about it, and you're each going to get a minute to share about it. So first person, go ahead. Yeah, okay, second person. So first person finish up, and second person you go ahead. All right, so second person, you finish up and come on back. So can I hear maybe a share, possibly two, on what now when you looked at yourself and your relationships and anything you got from that? Go ahead, Anna.
So my father was very controlling to my mother, but in a very passive way. Like he didn't take on a lot of responsibilities that he should have, and she allowed him to do that. Mm-hmm. So for me, I did like the polar opposite, where I dated guys who were very like macho and no feelings and emotions, and they were very controlling towards me, but
more
like,
overtly.
Yes, like telling me what to do. And so I just see the opposite. I just like boomerang to the other side.
Great, good catch. That's wonderful. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, well, I thought I saw a hand going up. Yep, go ahead, Sophie.
Yeah. In my parents' relationship, so my dad was more like in the dominant position. Mm-hmm. So my mom didn't have voice at home. So when I was younger and I saw this, and even when I was a teenager, I said in the future, if I marry or date someone, I will do opposite. I will don't let the man control me. So because there the pattern of the relationship really impact when I choose the boyfriend. So when I started dating, and when the guy, the boy, is like a little bit aggressive or try to tell me to do something, and I would say immediately, no, that is not the
He's
right
out of it,
candidate.
yeah.
So I dated my first boyfriend for several years relationship. The only reason I chose him, it is because he listened to me for everything. Even like, we decided he cooked at home, and when I go home, and everything what he cooked is what I like, but I say today I really don't want to eat this. We need to eat outside, So he just listened everything, and then after a couple of years, I felt this relationship is not healthy also, So this is I ended the relationship. I feel this is not what I was looking for. So
Good.
this is how my
is great.
parents' marriage
Yep.
impact how I choose my first boyfriend.
And second, really. Yeah, both of them. Okay, great. I'm going to give you a hand on that and just underline a couple things that we'll keep looking at, which is, so there's that reactivity opposite, that both of you shared. I'm going to not do that. And so was that satisfying? No, not particularly. So then will somebody like my dad, either way, we're all still going to have our work to do. So in one sense, it really kind of doesn't matter. I mean, this is kind of the good news, bad news, because however, we end up picking or choosing, I believe, and something we'll talk about more later, is that we choose them just for the reason that we need for our own growth and development. So this uncovering isn't like a right or wrong or how should I do it. It's, oh, isn't that interesting? Okay, well, that's the work I'm going to need to do for myself, and we'll explore that a little bit more. But I do want to congratulate everybody because you just either did your first archaeological dig or revisited some sites and got new perspectives. So I think we should give all of us a round of applause. And I think you also pointed out what this looks like to analyze our dissatisfactions in our relationships and looking at solutions and not just complaining about them. So we don't want to just, well, I don't want that, but what are solutions and what do I want? And that's a lot of what we want to do is as we uncover strengths and weaknesses, like what do I want, what don't I want, and I do get to choose that. Okay, so now we're going to shift and we're going to go into and explore a little bit more around this tool called the genogram. And we're going to take a closer look at it. So therapists and clinicians for probably over 40 years have been using this as a tool, as a way to gather and organize information about our family system and to explore patterns. And I know for me, so much came together. It was like puzzle pieces falling into place. Even though I had probably done other assignments and talked about this, there was something about seeing it visually, seeing it mapped out, and how patterns just kind of emerge and pop out of it visually. And I do want to give a little moment of credit to some of our friends and theorists that we study at the Wright Graduate University, including Alfred Adler. My friend Karen, she calls him her boyfriend, because his methodology and his theories meant so much to her. Murray Bowen, Virginia Satir, John Bradshaw, Monica McGoldrick, all of them really in different ways use this tool to what they really wanted to do is to support families and see them as a system, not as individuals with problems, but how that interaction, touches and connects and either reinforces dysfunctional patterns and keeps them going, or if we intervene, can shift them, but not till we look at it. And they really want, what I like about it is it brings more truth, because just naming these things is bringing truth where probably there hasn't been a lot of that. And like I said, everything from severe secrecy to just talking about things that aren't the norm to talk about. Healing and possibility for fulfilling relationships. And like I said, at WGU, we study these, but we don't just study them, we apply them in our lives like we're doing here. So, everything that we do here at the Wright Foundation has to have an impact on you and your life. And when you study any of these, you're going to apply it, you're going to see how it works, and you're going to look at it deeply internally, but also in your work life and in your relationships. So I think that's really cool because that's only when we like integrate it, and it's Dr. Bob and Judith Wright who then took all these theorists and their tools into this really applied research-based model that I know for me, and as I've talked about why I like this so much, it's had such a huge impact on myself and others in their families and couples. And back to that question, like, you know, why look at this again? Like, okay, I kind of hear ya, but I still think maybe I can avoid looking at this stuff. Like, really, I think I could. But, you know, we really can't run away from our past or destroy our family history. You know, it's there, it's present, and it's actually running away from it that traps us in the patterns. So it has the exact opposite effect, even though in our mind it feels like it would be more comfortable and safe. So I just want to keep encouraging us that, you know, in any discomfort that we keep going. And some of us want to think we can find that perfect someone, right? Like, who hasn't had that thought? I mean, yeah. We're going to find that perfect mate, the one, and it'll be the two of us living happily ever after. So I'm going to show a little picture of what that might look like. Oh, there we are. Aren't we cute? We are so cute and happy. We're holding hands. We have our little heart. And, you know, I found this person that's so different from my mother and father. And he's giving me all these things that I've always yearned for and wanted. Or some people might be thinking like, phew, I found somebody I can get the heck out of this family and go off on my own. Well, like I said, if that were true, that would be wonderful. But, you know, it isn't just me and it isn't just him. So there's me and there's the family I stand upon. Okay, so I'm not just bringing me to that happy couple. I'm bringing this and more. And not only that, so is he. He's bringing that and more. So yes, he's standing on the shoulders of this system, and that could have some real positives, but also some weaknesses that we really want to explore. And then you bring us together. Whoa, you know, what happened to that like happy like little couple we were? I didn't marry this family. I don't even like a lot of them. You know, I like him. What do you mean I got to bring them along? Well, even if you move across the world and you're not physically with them, you're with them. Because, as I said, they're wired in us. How many times am I going to say that? Probably a zillion. They're wired in us because the more we can break that myth or that reality. So, let me go back. The more we want this, the more we need to look at this. Okay, and that's what we're going to do as we explore the program. So this Monica McGoldrick that I talked about, she wrote a very accessible book about what it, you know, exploring genograms and bringing them into your life. And one of the things I liked about it is she didn't immediately have you focus on yourself. She talked about famous people. Isn't it always fun to like think about other people and how this works in their life? So she had a lot of great examples. One of them that stood out for me was Benjamin Franklin. I know, who knew? Why she decided to study him, I don't know. But she discovered that he was an illegitimate child. And I might get some of these facts wrong, but you'll get the point. So if you fact check me, I might have it a little bit skewed. But he either started the pattern of the illegitimate, but for a long time favored, but then as he got to be more of a teenager, he fell out of favor and he ran away. So he ran away from the family, but lo and behold, he gets in a relationship and he has a son out of wedlock. What do you know? Like that son grows up, he estranges from their family and goes off on his own. And I don't know, she doesn't go into how many generations, you know, this pattern ensued. But I think one of the things about that strikes me is, you know, he also did some pretty amazing things, right? And we all have this work to do. And it doesn't have to stop us, but that is probably an area of life that he could have used to explore and shone some light on. Oh, that's pretty good, right? Electricity. Just made that up on the spot. And I think would have really served him. So now, I would like to spend a little bit of time, if you're open to it, sharing some of my journey and example with the genogram, because we won't have time, like in our time together, for you all to work a genogram. And some of you actually have it assignments in some of the work you're doing in your transformation or in your transformation labs. But I want to give some context for mine, and maybe that'll even stir up more for you to think about as you're working on yours. Or if you're doing it for the first time, you have in your packet a sample genogram, and then you can make up your own, based on this. And I'm obviously available, for consultation and any coaching that you want in this area. So, what this is a diagram of your family, but not just who's who. You want to put on this diagram as much about your family as you can. And they've given us, they start you off with a key of some like kind of critical or basic like relationship type things that go on, and the kinds of relationship you might have, with your parent or between your siblings and on around. It also, guides you in asking questions. What were the education levels of the different family members? What were illnesses? Were there any addictions in the family? Soft or hard addictions. I think I said mental or physical illness. How do people die? I mean, you really want to get as rich of a picture as you can about your family. And then, then we'll have choice. So we'll talk about this. So this particular genogram is not our original genogram. If you see up in the right-hand corner, it says Hannah Lyons. So I'm going to say a little bit more about this later, but turns out at the fall break, she's a sophomore in college, and in her psychology class, she had to do a genogram. So, you're doing do we have a genogram for you? So at that time, we didn't have it on computer, but Rich had blown up when we did it as a seminar. Here's our genogram, and we had, this ginormous genogram, and we got to explore it again together with her. And it was really cool because we started to see we were sharing with her patterns we've already identified and some things that we were going into. Like, for example, I'll just name a few. This is Rich's side of the family, and you'll see some cutoff, but you'll also see all those dark lines underneath is alcoholism. So you see a lot of those. We saw, I think, let's see, we hone in on Dad's family. There was affairs, wife abuse, died early. There wasn't a lot of longevity in this family. On Rich's mom's side, we also see a lot of divorces, some alcoholism, and I don't think she showed it on here, but like on a fourth relationship, a third marriage, that's also still in an alcoholic system. So we had already identified those. And I'll say a little bit about mine before the new stuff that we uncovered. So here, you again see some of the alcoholism, you see affairs. Something I didn't mention on Rich's side was the women were educated, going pretty far back. On my side, not educated, mostly stay at home, work. So I'm just naming a couple of them. Let's see. What's not listed here is my dad was the oldest of 6, the favorite child, how he died, what his occupation was. His parents were immigrants. All of this are things that, I guess she did put them kind of tiny there. My mom's side, 1 brother. But something that got revealed in this next time around was those triple lines that I don't know how easy it is to see on the webinar, but those triple lines are enmeshed relationships. So that's what ended up coming to focus in our discussion with Hannah was I had an enmeshed relationship, which means like overly close, really like two in each other's business. Like for me, that enmeshment was I had a very controlling mom. I let her make decisions for me. I kind of, to the extent where one of my roles was just basically to be her doll and, allowed her to really dominate. And that went back, a generation. On Rich's side, and my dad with his mother, and his dad with, I don't think she shows it there, but with his mom, was also enmeshment, but that was because of divorced families. As oldest sons, they ended up taking care of their mothers. So they had an overly close relationship and started taking care of. And in all of those, the needs are getting met by the parent through the child. And the relationship between the couple has really kind of disintegrated, either completely or come apart or is very weak. So I know I just threw a lot out there. Any reactions, anything that you're seeing for yourself or noticing, just looking at mine here for a minute? Yeah, go ahead.
I see for the first time how my older brother kind of played that role of the father figure
Oh, yeah.
after my parents' divorce. And then I think I kind of played the role of like the perfect wife for my dad and like was the perfect little girl.
Yep.
So that was interesting to find.
Yeah, good. And that's what we want, you know, and why when you're doing something like this, it's good to, when we do it as a weekend, we like share with each other, you share as a couple, you start to see, you know, we only have a few more minutes, so we're obviously not going to get to that, you know, for ourselves and with each other, but hopefully you're starting to see this exploration and what it can reveal. And so like I said, my daughter had this assignment. She then looked at, they actually asked in the assignment, you know, what do you notice about any relationship you have had or are in? So she was able to identify like, oh, you know, the guy I'm dating right now, he's really smart. He has a high IQ, like my husband, and really uses that to kind of try and dominate me or be a bit superior. Well, that's interesting. That's, you know, what happens in her relationship with her dad. He's also the son of a divorced family and mom who he was taking care of. So it was really cool for her to see this. I have her paper right here. I want to see if there was anything else that caused his mother to, right? I'm realizing that as a baby of the family, I was attracted to the emotional attentiveness that he learned from the enmeshment from his mother. So partly I'm saying that, like, is that so cool? Like, you know, now, and I said this to her after we were kind of worked on, I'm like, you know, I would bet are going to be the only family who's actually, like, done this before and isn't, you know, and doing this. So I was trying to guilt trip her a little bit. But what I really got from that was and felt really moved by is the system of the secrecy is starting to change. You know, that it's more normal to, and, you know, I kind of tear up with that. It's more normal to talk about this stuff, and it doesn't have to have as huge of a charge. It's like, oh, notice that, okay, and then where am I going to go with it versus like, oh, you know, no, or we got to hide those things. And, you know, one of our things as a family system is to look good. So, you know, you would never like share these in public. You know, never talk about your alcoholism on a webinar, you know. But we've come a long way, you know, where we can do that because that's the only way we're going to be able to address them, you know. And out of that, my husband and I have decided to be an alcohol-free couple, you know, and we have through our whole marriage just because we saw the damage that it's done. And we knew that that was in our system so strongly. And, you know, it's opened a door and allowed us to have more connection and intimacy. And, you know, we're still learning. We have, you know, lots of ways that, you know, we're still identifying things in the way or, you know, stuck. But I felt very heartened by her work on this to see that, you know, if they keep going, like the generations, and one of ours, when we stopped drinking, was to say addiction stop here. Well, it might not like stop here, but if we can start a new trend, I think that would be great. So let me see, I'll just summarize a couple things here. And I think the only other thing I want to say, because I think we have about a minute left, is, again, just to underline that, you know, it's by not just looking at this and kind of being thoughtful about it, it's then applying it, you know. And what I love about our work here is that we have a lot of assignments, you know, that kind of put us, you know, into it and allow us to practice new behaviors and make, you know, possible changes that otherwise, you know, and with the support of other people and, you know, groups and things like that, you know, this can happen. And, you know, I look forward to our family continuing to grow and engage in some of these, tougher things, and it's certainly what I would want for all of you is, that level of satisfaction and what's possible in this exploration. How does that sound? Yay. Any questions? Anything? Anyone? Yeah, go ahead, Tanya, and then we'll wrap up.
Any good addictions?
Let's see. I don't know if they'd be labeled addictions, but there are good habits. Yeah, so, and if you want to call them an addiction, I guess you can, but addiction ends up having that, it's going to have in our head that a certain trigger to it, but we actually want to build healthier habits, ones that nourish us and meet our deeper yearnings. And if they do that, and we do them a lot, I think we're pretty safe. Yeah, and that's, and I may not have mentioned this, but it can feel a little overwhelming to look at all the weaknesses, but unless we look at the weaknesses, we also do want to look at strengths, right? And then we get to choose, and something we didn't get to was articulating a vision, because it's only after this exploration can you really do a thoughtful vision for yourself and how you want your relationships, yourself and your partnerships to be. And Sammy, I think, if you want to.
Sammy here. So it seems like the solution is not to try not to marry the mom or dad, but it seems like we all marry our fathers and mothers. It's just really being aware of it and just working it out rather than, okay, well, I'm aware my husband is my dad, so I'm going to divorce him and make sure I don't marry, so it's just working it out. I guess that's the answer.
I think that's a beautiful summary. And actually, I know we're just 2 minutes over time, but you having said that, Sammy, first I want to give you a round of applause. And then we're going to do a samurai, pass the mic, and something that you are going to take away from today for yourself. I know there's we all just look this way on the webinar because there's huge blocks of ice falling from the building. All right. So Karen, grab the mic.
I think I'm realizing that for my children to move into relationships, which they haven't done, it's going to be important for me to heal all the things in my relationship so that they won't feel, I think that there's an unconscious thing that's keeping them in the system.
Yes.
To help take care of mom and dad because mom and dad aren't taking care of each other.
That's very beautiful and poignant. Thank you.
I want to look at the strengths more. I focused a lot on the gaps.
Great. Thanks, Ann.
What I'm taking away is just getting present to who I married and why I married him, so that we can move forward with our imperfections.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm taking away that I have an opportunity to make a change and start a new trend and not repeat patterns.
Yeah, beautiful.
I think a takeaway is before I never really didn't analyze my parents' marriage that much. Although I'm aware, something significant from my dad, but I think today I feel it's important when you need to learn from either your partners or your parents.
Great.
What happened with them, and that can help you to improve your relationship.
Perfect. Thank you.
I think I'm learning that by understanding my family system, I can understand myself better, and then just be happy with that.
Yay, I love that.
So instead of trying to find the right person, I think it's more of trying to find a person that's willing to work through the relationship with me.
Hallelujah. You guys are brilliant.
What you said about running from it keeps you trapped in it. I identified a lot with, I've done that, so I guess encouraged me to keep looking at it so that I don't repeat it.
Run into it versus away from it. Oh,
Yeah.
beautiful. Well, I just want to give a huge round of applause and thank you to WGU and this Idea Cafe format. So, yay. Doctors Bob and Judith Wright for giving us this, and to all of you for being here in our webinar, folks. I'd love to have heard what you're taking away. So thank you, and you'll be hearing about others of these kind of talks either during the day or maybe even evening sometime. So I hope you join us again. Thank you.